I had someone walk up to me and say, well, the dinosaur is the contrast with the modernity and the dynamism of the Atlantic Council, and of course you're far more nimble than a whale. And of course Robert De Niro gave us his own context for this setting. So at this point I would invite the following people to stand. Victor, and then hold your applause please. Victor Chu, Robert Abernathy, except for that table can applaud. Adrian Arsht, Brent Scowcroft, Evan Greenberg, Patrice Motsepe, Philippe Amon, Michael Walsh, Maurice Levy, Douglas Peterson. These are tonight's dinner co-chairs who have contributed crucially to this evening's success. Thank you so much. Please give them all a round of applause. On a more somber note, we recently lost one of our dearest friends, Dinu Patriciu, whose vision and generosity have left a profound and lasting mark at the Atlantic Council. I am delighted that his daughters Anna and Maria Patriciu are here this evening with Melanie Chen, his trusted partner. Please come and join me on stage. Allow me to read the following board resolution acknowledging this extraordinary individual, which I will then pass to his daughters and to Melanie. The directors of the Atlantic Council mourn the passing and celebrate the life of Dinu Patriciu, founder of the Dinu Patriciu Eurasia Center, architect of the Atlantic Council Energy and Economic Summit in Istanbul, in parentheses, and which, by the way, is in its 5th year this year in Istanbul, and a member of the Atlantic Council's International Advisory Board. A tireless supporter of individual initiative and defender of freedom. He was also one of Central Europe's most successful entrepreneurs and earliest philanthropists. Driven by a deep understanding of the historic challenges and modern opportunities facing the Black Sea region, Dinu's vision gave birth to the Council's dynamic work on Eurasia. He will be remembered for his generosity, kindness, perceptiveness, original thinking, and sense of humor. We send our deepest condolences to Dinu Patriciu's family. Here, come over here. Come over.
Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, Dinu's daughters, Anna and Maria, and I would like to thank the Atlantic Council for the moving tribute and this award this evening. Dinu was an avid watcher of historical documentaries of all eras. So it was with a little irony that after his recent death, we watched the various news stories about the roles Dinu played in modern Romanian history. Dinu was a visionary, and he was passionate about the evolution of democracy and capitalism in Romania and the region. He was very proud of his relationship with the Atlantic Council, which embodied so many of his beliefs. He would have therefore been very touched and moved by this evening in New York. A very special thank you to Brent Scrowcroft, the members of the advisory board, the Dean of Patricio Eurasia team, and especially Fred for their kindness and support. Thank you also to everyone who sent messages of condolences, which were greatly appreciated. Thank you and good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage Atlantic Council Chairman, Governor Jon Huntsman.
I'm delighted to now have the opportunity to introduce the award for tonight's next honoree, former Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew. As the founding father of modern Singapore, he accomplished what many thought impossible, turning a resource-poor city-state into a global economic powerhouse, a model for political stability, and a world leader in education. My own respect and admiration for Lee Kuan Yew developed when I was a young United States ambassador to Singapore. Our regular conversations greatly informed and continue to inform my perspective on the region and indeed the world. And I am forever personally grateful for his wisdom and advice. During our many meetings back then, up through our most recent meeting this past summer, it has been abundantly clear why he is one of the most sought after world leaders by global heads of state, including many US presidents, on matters of global import. His astute worldview, shaped by over 5 decades of leadership, pervades any national or cultural boundaries. It is a product of strong convictions and a clear vision of what it means to be a statesman. While the challenges of age prevent him from joining us in person tonight, in fact, he just turned 91 this past Tuesday, we are honored to be joined by Singapore's Foreign Minister and my friend, Kay Shanmugam, who will accept the award on his behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in applauding Lee Kuan Yew's legacy and welcoming Minister Shanmugam to the stage.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege and an honor to receive this award on behalf of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. This is an age where words like outstanding, extraordinary, great are overused to describe leaders. But few will challenge that Mr. Lee deserves to be described in those terms and more. And this award for Mr. Lee testifies to that. On this occasion honoring Mr. Lee, it is worth noting what he advocated consistently in the context of big power relations, specifically the US and its role in the world, and in particular in Asia. He recognized some fundamental truths about the United States and the world, which in a fashionably anti-American way, many in the third world chose to ignore from the 60s through to the 90s. After World War II, the US-led world order and the institutions that were created were largely beneficial to most parts of the world. The UN, Bretton Woods, Marshall Plan, and the US generosity, including generosity to former foes, avoided the post-World War I mistakes, so that the world saw a prosperous Germany in Europe and a prosperous resurgent Japan in Asia. The US' crucial role in stopping the spread of communism in East Asia at considerable cost to the US, but which gave Southeast Asia and East Asia the fighting chance to survive and prosper. That was the context in which you heard Dr. Kissinger say what Mr. Lee said to some Harvard academics who were arguing against the US engagement in the Vietnam War, and he said to them, "You make me sick." He was probably one of the strongest advocates, certainly one of the most outspoken advocates of a strong US presence, both economic and military, in Asia. And again, he did so in the 60s and 70s, long before it was fashionable to say so. He knew that the US presence was vital to maintain peace and balance in Asia as the Asian economies grew in the last 50 years. And that has contributed significantly to American prosperity and security. And in third world fora, including the non-aligned movement and other such places, Singapore was often in a small minority, sometimes a minority of one, in speaking up for the United States. And he reminded other big powers that despite all its problems, on most measures of power, America outranked all others and remained at the pinnacle of international hierarchy. The appeal of America to the best and the brightest in the world, and America's unique ability to absorb them, meant that America had an enormous pool of talent. And he never ceased telling Americans as well as others, America will only decline the day it shut its doors to the best and brightest from the world. And he reminded everyone repeatedly not to underestimate American creativity, resilience, and innovative spirit. But he was at times perplexed with some aspects of the American political system. So, for example, when he met President Bush Sr., I think during the time of the first Gulf War, there was a time when the American supplied Patriot missiles were able to knock out the Scuds in the sky, and he said, these are like, two needles, one needle knocking another out. You're so good. How is it that you're not able to fix your budget? Some things don't change. I think at that time, America was running a small budget deficit. Mr. Lee's support for the US was in the enlightened self-interest of Singapore. And while he advocated these positions, he was also very close to Chinese leaders, from the late Mr. Deng Xiaoping to succeeding leaders in China. They took him very seriously. He was always very honest with them. He didn't say one thing in Washington and another in Beijing. He encouraged China to become a stakeholder in the international system and advised and helped China join the WTO and engaged China in many other ways. And he was taken seriously in many capitals: Tokyo, Canberra, New Delhi, Moscow, Paris, Bonn. The list can go on. And it's truly extraordinary for a leader from an island state with an area of about 280 square miles, where you can travel from the north to south in about 35 minutes and east to west in 45 minutes. I will share with you one further thought. Today, the US is going through a period of some introspection. Meanwhile, the world is presenting new challenges every day to the US. And the world is not giving the United States the luxury to engage in too much introspection. If Mr. Lee is asked about this, what will he say? He will tell America that it has to be confident. He will point out that America has much to be confident about. It is still the preeminent economic and military power in the world. It has the best universities in the world. And the stars are aligning for the US. Shale is going to be a game changer. 3D, big data, the wealth of talent, and much more. There is much for America to be confident about. And with that confidence, America has to recognize that the world needs American leadership. Clear, sensible leadership, without hubris and without self-doubt, neither extreme. The world, he will tell America that it is in America's self-interest to provide that leadership. firm, clear, consistent, strategic leadership which assures your allies and which will give pause to those who wish to do you harm. No serious international issue today is capable of resolution without US involvement, or at least its acquiescence. The US has been a good friend of Singapore, and Singapore has been a reliable partner for the US. And it is from that perspective that Mr. Lee has often said these things. We hope that the US will continue to provide that leadership for the rest of the world. I thank the Atlantic Council for conferring on Mr. Lee this 2014 Global Citizen Award. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Atlantic Council Executive Vice President Damon Wilson.
Good evening. Tonight, we honor our next global citizen, Petro Poroshenko, President of Ukraine, at a historic moment when his leadership is being tested and his nation challenged. Given the crisis unfolding in Ukraine, President Poroshenko could not be with us tonight. But last Thursday in Washington, the Atlantic Council hosted the President for a heartfelt event at which he accepted the Global Citizen Award in person. This evening, representing Ukraine, we welcome with us Foreign Minister Pavlo Klimkin. Thank you for being here tonight. In May, Ukrainians elected Petro Poroshenko with a majority of the vote in every region, demonstrating unprecedented unity behind his offer of a European future for his nation. As we honor him tonight, Ukraine is battling for its sovereignty, for its territory, indeed for its very freedom. In his own words, one nation decided to be free and democratic, another nation decided to punish her for this. In the wake of Russia's annexation of Crimea and invasion of eastern Ukraine, President Poroshenko is now pursuing peace. But Ukraine's ability to determine its own future hangs in the balance. And if we fail to help to deter Putin's aggression in Ukraine, more nations may fall victim. There is no leader doing more today to defend our values, to defend the values of our community, than President Poroshenko. We are honored to present the Global Citizen Award to President Poroshenko to recognize his leadership and courage, and we salute the people of Ukraine for their unbreakable will to live free and united. Please turn towards the screens to watch President Poroshenko's remarks.
First, of course, I would like to thank the Atlantic Council for the hosting these wonderful events and for the honoring me with the Global Citizen Award. A real award winner is, of course, not me, no doubt. It is Ukrainian people. And during this winter, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians participated in the revolution of dignity and to show their resolve to build a democratic European society. And I'd like to dedicate this award to the fallen heroes, patriots, who sacrificed their lives so that Ukraine's future would be among democratic nations. But this is a symbol of our unity. This is a symbol of our solidarity. That would be a symbol of our victory. Victory in the struggle for peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next honoree will speak in Spanish. Please locate the translation headsets that were on your seats. You will need to turn them on. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chairman and CEO of the Motion Picture Association of America, Senator Chris Dodd.
Well, good evening, and what a great evening this has been. Let me, I think, express the opinions and feelings of all of you in this room this evening. How about another round of applause for the staff of the Atlantic Council putting on a great, great evening this evening. And thank you. The Atlantic Council's 11-month-old Latin American Center, a gift from my very good friend and a great friend of the Atlantic Council, Adrian Arsht, believes, as I do, as I'm sure many of you do as well, that the time has come to recognize the profound transformations that have occurred in Latin America. Today, our fastest growing trade partner globally is Mexico, where over $1 billion of daily trade crosses the U.S.-Mexican border. The Americas are a region of promise, where a prosperous growing middle class and agile multinational companies and impressive forward-thinking strong leaders reside. The Adrian Arsht Latin America Center's vision, recognizing there is a new Latin America, is an exciting addition to the portfolio of the Atlantic Council. And as one who has devoted important periods of my own life in Latin America as a Peace Corps volunteer some 50 years ago in the Dominican Republic, to my chairmanship of the subcommittee on Western Hemisphere of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I want to thank Adrian Arsht for her leadership and her support of this, as well as Fred Kemp and Chuck Hagel, the previous head of our Atlantic Council, and of course John Huntsman and the advisory council and the staffs as well, for understanding this critically important role in the nations of Latin America that they play in the Atlantic region. Throughout my nearly 4 decades in public life, 36 of which I spent in the United States Congress, I had the privilege of knowing and working with truly remarkable leaders around the globe. And this evening we have recognized so many have contributed so much to this world in which we live. As a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for 30 years, and as chairman or ranking Democrat on the subcommittee of the Americas, I either chaired or co-chaired the annual congressional bilateral meetings with the Mexican Congress for 26 consecutive years. Over those 3 decades, I had the privilege and pleasure of working with some remarkable leaders of Mexico, leaders of vision and passion, who sought to ensure that the people of that country would enjoy a more prosperous future. Tonight, I have the distinction and honor of presenting a man, a Mexican leader, who has demonstrated a vision and passion and an unyielding resolve to continue transforming his country and setting his nation on a path of growth and prosperity in the coming years. President Enrique Peña Nieto is transforming the nation's state-owned oil companies and opening it up for the private sector for the first time in 75 years, spurring greater competition in the telecommunications market and restructuring his nation's police forces in order to combat the violence that has caused so much tragedy and harm to the people of his own country. President Peña Nieto has taken on one daunting challenge after another since becoming the president of his country less than 2 years ago. Both the country of Mexico and the world at large have taken notice of this remarkable young man. Under President Peña Nieto's leadership, Mexico's auto manufacturing industry is booming as companies such as Kia, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and many others are building new factories in Mexico, bringing thousands of jobs to that country. Foreign investment is growing, and the Mexican peso has strengthened against the dollar, the only currency, I might add, in Latin America to do so. No one who has followed President Peña Nieto's career should be the least surprised over his success or his unflinching willingness to be a strong leader, taking on very tough decisions and these very difficult decisions facing his nation. The son of an electrical engineer and a school teacher, President Peña Nieto has long aspired to a career of public service to his country. In 2005, the president was elected to the hugely important position as governor of the state of Mexico. From constructing and improving hundreds of miles of roads to the 196 hospitals and medical centers that were built during his governorship, and the doubling of mobile health units to serve the people in remote areas of his state. His 6 years as governor were nothing short of an overwhelming success, and it was therefore no surprise that the people of his nation elected him as president to continue those accomplishments on their national stage. In less than 24 months of his 6-year term, President Peña Nieto has managed to put reforms in place that experts in his own country and globally agree will put Mexico's economy and the people of that nation on a great and positive trajectory in the years ahead. So, Mr. President Peña Nieto, all of us here at the Atlantic Council are truly excited to see what great things will be accomplished under your leadership. We are excited about what you have managed to do already in such a short period of time. We're even more optimistic about the future of Mexico and your leadership, for what you have accomplished, for the hope and optimism that you have brought to your country, and for the strong leadership example that you are setting around the world. We here at the Atlantic Council are deeply, deeply proud to present you the Global Citizen Award. May I present the future of the world in which we live, El Presidente de Mexico, Presidente Peña Nieto. Mr. President.
Muchísimas gracias, muy buenas noches. I will start by doing a little bit something different from what has been doing tonight, that is speaking in Spanish. And I thank you so much for your comprehension. You can be helped by your translation simultaneously. Voy a cambiar y quiero agradecer en primer lugar al Consejo del Atlántico esta muy honrosa invitación y sobre todo este reconocimiento que se ha formulado, no al mérito de un hombre, no al presidente de México, sino al mérito y al esfuerzo de toda una nación, de sus componentes, de sus partes, que decidieron impulsar cambio y transformación para México, y a la que habré de referirme de manera muy breve en un momento más. Quiero agradecer también, además, que el Consejo del Atlántico esté volteando a ver a otras regiones del mundo dentro de su análisis y dentro de las políticas que desde aquí se formulan para mejorar el mundo y que ahora estén prestando especial atención a América Latina y a México. Quiero agradecerle a un gran amigo de México, a Chris Dodd, la amable presentación que hiciera sobre mi persona, y a quien es un gran amigo de México y ha sido condecorado con la Orden Mexicana del Águila Azteca, el máximo reconocimiento que el Gobierno de México otorga a un extranjero por sus méritos y por su apoyo a nuestro país. Muchas gracias, Chris, por esta presentación. Quiero felicitar ampliamente a todos los galardonados esta noche, a quienes por distintos méritos, por trayectoria, han recibido este reconocimiento del Consejo del Atlántico, particularmente a un gran amigo de México, como lo son todos, pero quiero referirme particularmente a Shimon Pérez, quien hace apenas algunos meses estuvo de visita en nuestro país y reafirmamos los lazos de amistad que tenemos para con quien sin duda es un líder global. Shimon Pérez, y a todos los galardonados, todo mi reconocimiento y aprecio desde México. Déjenme ser muy breve en esta cena que se ha extendido, pero son tantos los méritos y reconocimientos a los cuales referirse, y sobre todo quienes me han antecedido en compartir este escenario. Yo vengo a decirles que México es un país que asume plenamente la responsabilidad global que tiene y que desde hace 2 años, cuando asumí la presidencia de la República, decidimos emprender un cambio profundo que nos permitiera cambiar y mover las entrañas de nuestro país para lograr mayor desarrollo social, para generar mayor crecimiento económico de manera sostenida y de manera sustentable. Somos una nación que es parte de la región latinoamericana, se siente en México nuestro orgullo latinoamericano, pero también nos sentimos miembros de la región norteamericana. Y compartimos una vecindad con América del Norte amplia e intensa, más de lo que muchos suponen. En 3 kilómetros de fronteras, esta frontera se ha convertido en la más ocupada y en la que tiene el mayor número de cruces legales todos los días, la más ocupada del mundo, 1 millón de cruces diarios, que tiene un comercio entre ambas naciones que es igual al de $1 millón por minuto, que el comercio que hacemos entre ambos países es tan intenso que para México el destino de Norteamérica es sin duda el más importante. Somos el tercer socio comercial más importante de los Estados Unidos. Y lo que Estados Unidos vende a nuestro país es, en suma, es en monto mayor a lo que le vende a todos los países que son miembros de esta denominación de BRICS. Esa es la importancia que tiene México para Estados Unidos y esa es la relación que México guarda con Estados Unidos. Una relación intensa, una relación cercana, multitemática y en la que estamos haciendo camino para ampliar realmente los horizontes de crecimiento, de competitividad, de productividad para toda la región de Norteamérica. Precisamente pensando en este objetivo, en de cómo transformarnos para no quedarnos atrás frente a los cambios que en muchos otros lugares del mundo y regiones habían venido ocurriendo, México se decidió a cambiar. Y lo hizo a partir de reconocer lo que hemos construido entre todos los mexicanos. Somos un país plural, diverso, en el que conviven distintas expresiones que tienen naturales diferencias. Somos un país con una gran estabilidad política que desde hace 80 años, 8 décadas, hemos tenido transiciones estables cada 6 años y que a partir de ello decidimos construir entre las distintas expresiones políticas y el gobierno que encabezo una transformación. Y firmamos al segundo día de haber asumido la presidencia de la República lo que llamamos el Pacto por México, que fue la voluntad comprometida de distintas expresiones, con naturales, insisto, diferencias, para cambiar y para generar reformas estructurales que posibilitaran que México tuviera una transformación de fondo. Y eso es lo que ha ocurrido. Hoy tenemos un nuevo andamiaje jurídico, reformas que están orientadas a ampliar los derechos de los mexicanos, a fortalecer nuestras instituciones democráticas, que ahora posibilitarán la creación de gobiernos de coalición, y reformas que se hicieron para acelerar nuestro crecimiento económico. Una reforma hacendaria, que no siempre resulta la más popular, pero que sin duda fortalece la capacidad del Estado para atender las demandas sociales. Una reforma financiera en telecomunicaciones para ampliar la competencia en este sector y una reforma energética para permitir, sin perder la propiedad del Estado sobre la riqueza de los hidrocarburos, permitir la participación del sector privado. Y eso sin duda nos abre un camino, nos deja ver un horizonte en el que México habrá de moverse a un mayor dinamismo de manera más acelerada y lograr mejores condiciones para los mexicanos. Al tiempo, insisto, que México asume su responsabilidad con el mundo entero. Hemos emprendido ajustes y reformas para contener el cambio climático, nos sumamos a las causas humanitarias de la humanidad y nos consideramos amigos de todos los países del mundo, buscando siempre los motivos para generar armonía, y ser constructivos y positivos en todas las relaciones que hacemos con el mundo. Eso que aquí he descrito de manera muy sintetizada es lo que México ha hecho en los últimos 20 meses o en los últimos 21 meses ya. Es lo que decidió hacer precisamente a partir de ver un mundo a veces convulsionado en algunas partes, con crisis económicas en otras, y sin pasar por una crisis o sin pasar por un momento de urgencia o de emergencia, decidimos actuar y ponernos de acuerdo. Deseamos que esto que México ha hecho sirva a las experiencias que resulten positivas y constructivas en otros escenarios. México se resolvió a cambiar, a emprender reformas de fondo, y ahora estamos en ese proceso que tomará su tiempo para instrumentar y lograr que estas reformas generen los beneficios a partir de su implementación para todos los mexicanos. Por eso, reitero mi agradecimiento al Consejo del Atlántico por voltear a ver a México, por voltear a ver a América Latina, por reconocer que es una región del mundo que está cambiando, que dejó de ser esa región a veces envuelta en crisis económicas, en azonadas militares o en problemas políticos. Hoy es una región que está cambiando y México quiere estar al frente de este cambio. Se ha decidido a cambiar y este reconocimiento que gentilmente hoy me entregan lo recibo con el orgullo de ser mexicano, en mi carácter de presidente de la República, pero en mérito y reconocimiento a toda una nación, la de México, que se ha decidido a cambiar y a construirse un mejor futuro. Muchísimas gracias.
Please welcome the founder of the Atlantic Council's Adrian Arsh Latin America Center, Adrian Arsh.
Well, to give you a slightly different perspective when it comes to what it is to be a global citizen, we have created the Young Global Citizen Award. Our first recipient is the pianist Llewellyn Sanchez-Werner, who is 17. This is a reminder to us all that the attributes of a global citizen are present even from an early age. Llewellyn began studying piano at 2. He became a full-time student at Ventura College at 5, where he became the youngest person to earn an associate degree. At 6, he made his orchestral debut. He made Juilliard history at age 14 as the youngest college student. Anyone with so many musical gifts would be remarkable enough. But what sets Llewellyn apart and what makes him a young global citizen is his commitment to social action through music. He was recognized by CNN International for his humanitarian contributions. He performed for President Obama's inaugural concert. At age 13, he was the first American soloist to perform with the Iraqi National Symphony in Baghdad, where he also launched a fundraising drive to create the country's first children's cancer clinic. He is a remarkable talent. In a short time, he has made an indelible impression on the arts and has used his talents to bring people together and improve the human condition. That is the definition of a global citizen. And so with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce the recipient of the Atlantic Council's inaugural Young Global Citizen Award, Llewellyn Sanchez-Werner.
Good evening. Thank you, Adrienne, for your extremely kind words. I hope you know just how much you are admired and cherished. As everyone here knows, your wit, wisdom, and charm make you a joy to be around. The lives your vast generosity and vision have transformed extend beyond many borders, and your efforts will continue to bear fruit for generations to come. Thank you, Adrienne. During World War II, Winston Churchill was asked if he should cut arts funding in favor of funding the war effort against Germany. Churchill resoundingly responded, "Well, then what are we fighting for?" Allow me to share a few brief examples. Many of you are no doubt familiar with Daniel Barenboim's work with the West Eastern Divan Orchestra. As a project against ignorance and intolerance, Barenboim co-founded the youth orchestra with Edward Said to provide a forum for Middle Eastern youth, both Jewish and Arab, to collaborate. In Finland, John Sibelius composed the symphonic poem Finlandia as his contribution to the press celebrations of 1899, a covert protest opposing increasing censorship from the Russian Empire. The composition helped rouse and unify an entire nation, later becoming a national anthem. In Poland, Frédéric Chopin, too frail to fight in Poland's 1831 November uprising against Russia, made his contribution to the Polish effort with a short but heroic work for piano, the Revolutionary Etude. In Mexico, Carlos Chavez's influence on Mexico's modern musical culture and education was mammoth. His founding of the current version of the National Symphony Orchestra, just the tip of the iceberg. But Chavez was also a trailblazer in his compositional style, infusing an unmistakably Mexican identity in his works by researching the foundational rhythmic and modal mechanics of both Mexican and Aztec folk music. Now, just as would happen when reading the novels of Carlos Fuentes or appreciating the paintings of Diego Rivera, anyone around the world hearing a Chavez composition immediately becomes immersed in the complexity and richness of Mexican culture. What better ambassador can a nation have? Rounding back to the United States, some of you will know of the Cafe Society in Greenwich Village, founded by Barney Josephson in 1938. While just uptown in Harlem's Cotton Club, black musicians were forced to enter through the service entrance, even if they were performing. The Cafe Society provided a forum that freely encouraged regular racially integrated collaboration. And it was under that roof that Billie Holiday first sang Strange Fruit, a poignant piece about lynching in the South. Lastly, for the time I have now anyway, the incomparable, and I mean incomparable, Leonard Bernstein. As an educator, he led the New York Philharmonic for 53 young people's concerts to introduce an entire generation of youngsters to the joys of classical music with inviting warmth. As an activist, Bernstein performed Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which incorporates Schiller's text of universal brotherhood and love, in both West and Eastern Berlin, to celebrate the fall of the Berlin Wall. These are just a few of the many examples that embolden me to harness the power of music as an instrument of peace and diplomacy. I am as passionate about artistic social responsibility as I am about the wondrousness of music itself. I am deeply, deeply honored and profoundly appreciative of being given this award. However, it pains me to tell you that music and other art forms we so love are often thought of as luxuries we cannot afford. This really could not be further from the truth. Now, everyone in this room has tremendous influence in your own sphere of endeavor. My humble request is that you continue your steadfast support and advocacy for the arts. With the deepest gratitude, thank you all. And now I will perform Ravel's Alborada del Gracioso. I hope you enjoy it.
That concludes our evening. Let me invite all the awardees and introducers onto the stage for a final round of applause. Please come join us again next year. It's wonderful to have you all with us. Thank you.